Hi, this is Luke with the Gamer, and we're going to rank the best weapons in Dead Island 2. During your time in Dead Island 2's Hell, you're going to be killing thousands of zombies, and like any good craftsman, you're going to need the best tools for the job. So we've assembled a list of the very best implements of destruction you'll encounter in your encounters. We're trying to judge these based on overall utility, potency, ease of use, and feel. Of course, you may find that other weapons are more your style, but we encourage you to give these implements of terror a try. Some of them are essential for an all-around arsenal. The titles for each class of weapon isn't comprehensive, they're more just common examples of each weapon type. At number 9, it's swords. The sword is likely to be one of your favourite early game weapons, especially since they are one of the first real weapons that you acquire. They're relatively fast, they do reasonably good damage, and they have a decent range. They're your prototypical jack-of-all-trades weapon. They would rank higher for us, but while they have a bit more range and speed over hammers, their lack of force makes them worse for dealing with other, more resilient enemies that the hammer is able to make quick work of. Still, they do feel great, and they're cool enough to probably earn a space in most Slayer's arsenal of weapons. With the right mods, a motivated Slayer could definitely make swords work as their primary weapon, and they are oh so satisfying to flay zombies with, so that has to be worth something. At number 8, it's two-handed weapons. These heavy two-handed weapons are slow, sluggish, and generally feel a touch unwieldy. It certainly takes some adjusting to get the most out of these giant implements of destruction. However, in exchange for their awkwardness, you are given something that packs one hell of a punch. There are some enemy types that these weapons quite simply handle better than any other weapon. A good two-handed weapon will absolutely obliterate slobbers, which are one of the most annoying zombies to fight in the game. They can also be extremely effective at taking care of crowds as they have wide, sweeping attacks. Just get used to swinging early. This is a weapon that every Slayer should have in their arsenal. However, it is an extremely bad idea to equip a mod onto one of these weapons that makes them slower. It just isn't worth the extra impact, people. At number 7, it's shotguns. Shotguns are powerful weapons and are great at clearing out zombies. Jumping full rounds into even the beefiest zombies will leave more than a dent, and they're great for dismemberment. While all guns are pretty good at removing limbs, the shotgun doesn't require as much accuracy. Unfortunately, you do need to get a little closer to get the maximum effect, and at that point you could typically get a similar effect with a fully charged critical attack from one of your more hefty melee weapons. And on top of that, your melee weapons don't need to reload. This isn't to say that the shotgun is a bad weapon, but it does have certain limitations. At number 6, it's one-handed blunt weapons. These babies are the best middle-of-the-road options in the game. Despite their small form factor, they make a big impact. These weapons share a lot of similarities with one-handed swords. However, they tend to trade a small amount of range for damage and impact. Honestly though, we feel like the trade-off is more than worth it. They can't fully replace a double-handed club for encounters where you want the most impact possible, but for the majority of encounters, they are plenty impactful. For the mass majority of the game, the single-handed bludgeon was one of our go-to weapons, because it is hard to argue with its balance of power and speed. At number 5, it's knives. Sure, large forceful weapons are going to always have an important place in your arsenal, but the dagger class of weapon can be extremely formidable. They have very little in the way of force, but they're extremely fast, which means they can dish out immense damage in a short span of time. And once the crushers arrive, you're going to need to have at least one of these on you at all times. It should be noted that the swiftness mod, which makes weapons quicker at the cost of force, is a perfect fit for these weapons, as they have little in the way of force in the first place. We feel like their lack of range and lack of impact makes them a little worse when dealing with large groups, but for one-on-one they are fantastic at piling on damage. Their quickness also makes them great for inflicting status effects. You need at least one of these in your arsenal. At number 4, it's guns. Yeah, we're putting all the other guns in one category. You'll unlock these weapons partway through the game after completing the justifiable zombie side quest. And yes, these weapons are quite potent, especially for dealing with the screamer and bloater types of zombies. However, their reliance on ammunition means you're going to be swapping them out all the time. Of all the guns, the single shot rifles are the best as they bring that power. Fundamentally, they are like most other guns, but they're substantially more powerful. Most of the tough zombies just melt away when shot by one of these. Sure, they are much slower, but when you can eradicate everything in a single shot or two, speed just isn't that important. And number 3, spears. Of all the weapons in the game, a spear type weapon is quite simply a necessity. There are absolutely certain zombie types that are easier to handle with a different weapon, but spears are able to handle more of the obnoxious zombie types than most weapons. If a zombie is on fire, they can attack them from far enough away to not take any damage. And runners? Well, the spear can poke at them quite quickly as they charge in, stopping their offense before it even has a chance to get going. The critical attack to the head also loops into itself as it leaves the zombie stunned. You won't use this for crushers or slobbers, but it's a great tool for dealing with most other types of zombies. At number 2, it's fist-based weapons. There isn't anything quite as fun as blitzing into a crowd and flinging these fists. These weapons are blindingly fast. Once you get a swiftness mod on these bad boys, you can become a whirlwind of fists. The pure damage potential of these pugilistic implements of death is just absurd. Obviously, they require you to get up close and personal, and that has some drawbacks. But the rate at which you can melt a health bar with these fist-based weapons is just too good to not sing their praises here. Throw a mod on that gives them the bleed effect, and watch a crusher turn into a pile of hamburgers in seconds. And at number 1 is the bow staff. The bow staff is typically a martial artist implement, but in your hands it becomes more of a brutal bludgeon for crushing skulls. You will probably note that we've been listing types of weapons, not individual weapons. Well, the bow staff is, as far as we've seen, its own thing. It does have the same critical attack animations as a spear, but its light attack is completely different from the spear type weapons, and we feel like that makes it a fundamentally different weapon. This is another all-arounder for the list. It doesn't quite have the impact of those blunt single-handed weapons, however it makes up for that by having a surprisingly fast light attack, while having shockingly rangy critical attacks. Ultimately, the bow staff is an incredible weapon that is both fantastic for taking care of crowds up close and personal, while also being great for dealing with enemies you would probably prefer to not get close to, which makes it a tremendously versatile weapon. In fact, we think it's probably the most versatile weapon in the game. So that's our guide to the best weapons in Dead Island 2. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and check out thegamer.com for more.